Servicing hoses and belts is one of the most important maintenance services needed on today's vehicles. And if it's not done properly, or not done at all, it can cause major problems including overheating, which can cause permanent engine damage. In this video, we'll cover a typical procedure for checking and replacing a drive belt and a radiator hose. Begin by checking the condition of the belt. Look for cracks and signs of glazing. Also, look for any frayed cords or any other damage. If any of these conditions are present, then the belt must be replaced. To replace a belt, start by disconnecting the electric cooling fans. This will prevent them from accidentally turning on while the belt is being replaced. Also, be aware that you should always use the exact replacement belt. In some cases, you'll find a part number on the belt being replaced, but it's always best to consult the service manual or a parts manual for the proper belt. In order to remove the old belt, your first task is to locate the belt routing diagram. It can be found on an under-the-hood decal on most vehicles. If you can't find it there, check the service information, and once you've located it, compare the diagram with the routing of the old belt. Most serpentine belts have a spring-loaded tensioner, so make sure to use the proper tool when releasing the tension, and only put enough pressure on the tensioner to release the belt. Because if too much pressure is applied on the tensioner spring, it could very well break. Next, inspect the grooves in the pulleys. Look for signs of rust, oil, wear, or other damage. If any damage is found, make sure to replace the pulley before installing a new belt. Check the alignment of the pulleys as well. This can be accomplished by placing a straight edge or yardstick on the pulleys to see if they are in alignment. If all of the parts are in good shape, you're ready to install the new belt. Don't forget to follow the routing diagram as you go, and make sure that the ribs of the belt are seated in the matched grooves of the pulleys as well. Once the belt is routed properly, apply pressure on the tensioner and slide the belt under it. Be sure the belt is in the grooves of the tensioner. Then go ahead and check the belt with your hand to see if it's tight. Keep in mind that some vehicles come equipped with a tension gauge already built into the tensioner. If you need to replace a V-belt, you'll want to begin by inspecting all of the drive belts and pulleys for signs of wear, cracks, or breaks. Next, loosen all of the mounting brackets on the accessory that's operated by the belt that needs replacing, and then loosen the tensioning bolt. If there are belts in front of the one that's being replaced, they'll also need to be loosened and removed. Once the mounting brackets have been loosened, you can go ahead and remove the belt. Next, install the new belt and reinstall any other belts that were removed for access. If you find that the accessory is equipped with a tensioner bolt, go ahead and tighten it. Otherwise, use a pry bar to both move and tighten the belt. Once the new belt is on, check the tension with a tension gauge and adjust it to the manufacturer's specification. Do not over-tighten the belt because it could cause damage to the accessories that are driven by it. Finally, tighten all brackets that were loosened to replace the belts, and you're done. When inspecting a coolant hose, make sure the engine is cooled down. Carefully examine the hoses for leakage and signs of chafing or swelling. Also, check to see if the hose is collapsed. You'll also want to look closely at the hose clamps for signs of rust stains as well. This is a good indicator that the hose has been leaking. Then squeeze each hose firmly. If there are any signs of splits or cracks, or if the hose feels mushy or brittle, it must be replaced. If you find that any hoses need replacing, release the pressure in the cooling system by slowly opening the radiator cap. Turn it initially to the first detent and then wait a few seconds to make sure all of the pressure is released. Once all of the pressure has been released, remove the cap. Next, drain the coolant system below the level that's being worked on. Always make sure that drained coolant is collected and recycled or disposed of according to local regulations, and never pour used coolant into a drain. After the coolant system has been drained, loosen or cut off the old clamp. Do not try to pull the hose off. This could easily damage the fitting. Instead, use a knife to cut off the old hose. Then, clean off any remaining hose particles with a wire brush or emery cloth, because if dirt or metal burrs are not removed, the new hose could leak. Next, prepare the fitting for installing the new hose by coating the surface with a sealing compound. This will help to prevent leaks. Once the fitting is ready, place the new clamps on each end of the hose before positioning it. Then install the hose and move the clamps to about 1/4 of an inch from the end of the hose and tighten them securely. Do not over-tighten the clamps. This could cause damage to the hose. After the hose has been installed, refill the coolant system with a 50-50 mixture of the proper coolant and water and then run the engine until it's warm. If the system has a bleed screw, open it slightly to let any trapped air escape. If there's no bleed screw, first let the engine run with the radiator cap removed until there are no bubbles coming from the radiator, and then put the cap back on. Always follow the manufacturer's procedure for bleeding the system. Finally, recheck the coolant level and retighten the hose clamps.